Hi there and welcome to Color, Detail and Edge lesson. Now this will be a simple short lesson on how these things work. But when you see the example image, you can probably see that your focus is more on the right side circle. And the reason is that when things are blurred, it feels like they are further away from us, and then we focus on the thing that looks sharp to us. It feels like when you are focusing on something, it truly sharpens up the edges, and the rest of the things that you don't focus on with your eyes looks blurred. So this is kind of like the effect that you see here. You have a focus point and then everything else seems blurred. So that is color, detail and color edge. Now the way we can apply that effect to our drawings, especially in cell shading, and how color, detail and edge work in cell shading, because in cell shading everything has an edge, because cell shading is that kind of technique. So let's go through how to use these things in cell shading. So the thing that we should remember is brush sharpness, anti-aliasing and airbrush. So all of these things affect how we kind of like focus on different things. So brush sharpness is something that you kind of like see here. It's super sharp. Anti-aliasing, this is kind of like a bit, I would say, exaggerated example, but then again, it shows you that the brush has, edge that kind of like gets blurred. And then we have an airbrush effect here. Yet again, when we are using brush or sharp brush, it takes the focus point there. Now the reason why airbrush is super important in cell shading is that it creates different kind of hue, saturation shifts and value shifts to the drawing. So you can see here we don't have any airbrush or gradient effect in place. So we have one color against another color. However, in the right side example, we have a color and then we have the gradient effect. And you can see that it truly works very differently. The color doesn't seem so, like it doesn't have such a strong edge. This is super important. It does not have such a strong edge. It blends in more with the rest of the colors because it has a gradient background. So that is super important to know about cell shading. When you have a lot of, surface area, you should use some kind of like airbrush to make the edge not so strong. Here it is super strong. Yet again, we have to remember these are style decisions. You can decide not to use airbrush in your drawings ever, but this is kind of like a drawing style thing that you can make. But in the example drawing, I would say the right side drawing is a bit more pleasant to watch because the edge isn't so clear. Even though it is super clear, it's more like it's blending more with the rest of the colors. So that is how color, detail and edge work in drawing. When there's a clear edge in your drawing, then it feels a focal point. When it's more blurred, it blends in and it's not in your focus. Now let's move on to the next lesson.